line drawing. I think we'll just start in on the head here of Caesar. I could start anywhere. I could start over here if I wanted to, or I could start over here if I wanted to. But ultimately, I think I'll start in on the still life over and through here. So start with the head. Right direction. Remember, our light source is coming from the top right. So everything generally to the left of our model will be a little bit darker line as we manipulate that further.
Don't just take classes, take charge. Start your comeback today at purdueglobal.edu.
Ladies and gentlemen, Twice Yearly Prep is here. One office visit every 6 months, 2 times a year for
So I'm trying to work very sensitively around the object. And you can start to feel where that antler comes through, about right in through here and over. So I could catch it and catch its cast shadow in through here. So we want to be able to express everything that we're doing with line. This beautiful contour line that's as descriptive as we could possibly get it and make it. Coming across that bony part of the antler and through here. So some of these lines I might break up and I might put back together just for variety's sake. Drawing. And I'm going to start to find this head, pick up the head back in through here. I can pick up this part of the antler later. I want to pick back up this head in through here, get that structure of the head working for me in a way that is set up so I can see it well. I can taper this line through. I see it as kind of a medium weight line. Through here coming down the head. This hair wants to wrap in. Coming down, picking up the neck a little bit, and I don't want to go too far down the neck because I want to start to get into the interior of my drawing pretty quickly and right away. You ask, okay, why? And the reason why is I don't want it to be traveling outline. We want this to be a dimensional, three-dimensional drawing. And so that means coming in on the inside, getting clear about what these forms are doing in space. So it's a long scale, slow, meticulous process. I'm going to take you all the way through. I may speed up the camera at times to expedite the entire process. I don't want to put you into a coma watching. It can get boring, but I want you to see it all the way through. See how this can be drawn. So I'll go back over that line, feel that line, smooth out that line when I need to. So this antler rests on the head and it creates this cast shadow. We can start to gingerly give a little quick sketch of it here as it falls outward. And you see it roll down the three-dimensional quality of the head in through here. It rolls out. It's a cast shadow, so it's going to be fairly dark and separate nicely from the antler in through here. When it comes out, it starts to get a little bit softer, so I'll break that line up. Lighten that line up a little bit. It's cast shadow. Maybe break it off with a couple of short lines. And then come back to it. Get sharper. And a little thicker right in through here. So a lot of times I'll draw shorter lines. line and I'll taper it. But I don't want it to feel choppy as I start to get, or I can just take off and say, okay, I want this line to be longer, and I can make my line as long as I draw through. But line weight, you'll see, won't stay the same very long at all, because we're describing the natural world, three-dimensional world in line weight. And so that's got to vary because we don't have the tool of using value at all. It's taken away from us. We've eliminated that from our drawing. And what we have left is our contour line. So again, I already started kind of putting my hand, protecting my hand with my ruler. And we'll start to work on the head a little bit more, profiling in. I need that cast shadow, that strong shadow coming through. Harder edge. Cast shadows generally have a harder drawn line, a little bit darker, and these form shadows can go a little bit lighter and more broken up. Tends to be a good way to read them in contour, and we start to see some of this nice little detail up it through here a little bit. Coming in through. This will overlap a little bit, this hair bulb, and through here. It's a little bit lighter, and they get a little bit darker as it comes on through. Sometimes I'll be quiet for a while, I won't talk. There's not really much to say. I'm just going to draw for you quite a bit. And so we've got this lighter hair bulb coming in through here. Could be sensitive to it. Very kind of light line. It's almost like drawing ice cream. Cloves of ice cream, little lumps and clips. So you see how this wraps around. Thinking about that flow and movement, that wrap and through here. This hair wraps around these bangs, if you will. And they get a little bit darker underneath that turn because of the light source coming from the right. Then they want to wrap and come back in here. Wrap around. I can darken this in a little bit more through here. So we see this flow of line of moving through here, right, and kind of in downward in through here, kind of around the ear, then it wraps around the ear, and then it wants to come back up. So we've got to be sensitive to that. It's a little bit darker here underneath here, and then lighter as it comes through here, that wrap. So we want to get that rhythm, but we want to be sensitive to our light source as well. So these lines are going to be a lot lighter than what you see on this side. I think it has to be. And so I'm going to get this underneath kind of cranial line in through here. It's kind of a dominant line in the back of the head as it moves through here and comes underneath and over. It's a little bit lighter, nothing darker than that. So it moves in that direction. So we have this kind of movement here and around, on through up, and this nice curve that we can barely see coming through here, then wrapped and around this way. You know, something else too, if you feel like some of these lines are too dark, maybe they're too dark in through here, you can take your kneaded eraser and you can start to dab through and adjust your line weight, even with your eraser, so it becomes even more of a subtractive, expressive drawing tool as well. So either making lines, drawing them, but also toning or tapering them off or killing the bite of them off a little bit with your ruler. Excuse me, eraser, really makes a difference too as well. I think that's something that's important to know about drawing, is that the eraser tool can be expressive and it can aid you, I think, in terms of getting the kind of proper line work that you want to if you get it too dark. Just wanted to show you that as well. All right, so let's jump in here to this part of the hair. Kind of curling it through. It really all wants to point to this ear, doesn't it? It all wants to kind of come to a conclusion here.
100% Angus steak makes Arby's cheesesteak 100% delicious.
PetSmart's AutoShip handles the everyday stuff. We also have Store, where we handle the fun stuff.
Kind of curling it through. It really all wants to point to this ear, doesn't it? It all wants to kind of come to a conclusion here. So let's work on that here. Let's bring this hair down and through here. So we're going to come in and hit this very light tip of the sideburn shadow right in through there. We'll hit that and up. And it gets trapped right in through here where the ear starts. A little bit more hair in through there. And it curls around. They do feel like kind of vanilla ice cream swirls in a way. Everything wants to twirl around just a little bit. So let's put that ear on the drawing now. So it's kind of a classic question mark shape. Very light over here on the top, almost let it go, and then kind of medium here on the outer edge. Kind of comes down. It tilts in this direction. And it's darker here on the bottom as that makes a cast shadow where the ear ends. There's a little cast shadow underneath there that you can start to see emerge here, and then we'll come back up and catch this curl underneath here, and then a softer edge for a form shadow. So I'll make a thicker line, break it up a little bit, and make it about a medium weight to show that. So it moves in through here and then down this outer connection to the ear. I think, one idea about detail is that you don't have to draw everything that you need. You want to get the feeling of that. You're going to eliminate some things. You get a sense of that through time and experience, what to eliminate, what to take out that you don't need. And we get that ear moving in this direction, and all this chaotic sort of cauliflower stuff, right? And through here, we can bring this dark. This dark is important. Right about through here and underneath. This gets pretty light. You can pick up some of this line and through here, really get this twist and turn back over and through here. And find that movement through. And we'll say, okay, we got the back of the ear. I can start to pick up the back of the jaw through here. Bring that down. Kind of a medium weight line and kind of form shadow as it cascades downward. And this picks up a little darkness as it moves over, and then we can come up to the chin, which sits about right in through here. Pick up our chin there. And I could put another line connecting to this form shadow underneath the jawline and make it feel like a nice form shadow of the thickness of that jaw as it makes that little shadow area in through there. Come back up. There's many different ways of putting lines together, and then the proximity of those lines, the closeness in their darkness or thickness, and then how close they are together, and then how far they can push away really matters too as well. And so I start to feel these coming over a little lighter. And they get a little bit darker as they get closer to the ear because they're underneath, they're kind of cut underneath. They're like little tubes or cylinders going in opposite directions. So make some short kind of contour ticks or lines there. We're starting to get a dimensionality now of the head as it starts to turn and move through. Usually you want to start working on the inside of your drawing pretty quickly. The inside three-dimensionality of the detail. I mean, can you name what each object is? This is kind of a boxy, rounded form. the antler is a cylinder tube form, and how can you emphasize its line weight, inflow, and movement? I think that's pretty important. And so I can break down this detail from larger rhythmic patterns to even smaller patterns. As I come back in through here, I can pick up even some more of this detail in through here if I want. You can get really into the minutia or the weeds of it. So I'm going to take you on a long journey with this contour drawing. You can speed ahead, or you can stay with me, or you can look at different sections as you want. So I'll do it in the long version, and you can abbreviate and get out of it what you want to get out of it. And pass this information along. Once you master it, pass it along, or share this video if you want with somebody else. So now I've got a proximity of more attention to detail, so we get a little bit more focus, you see, over through here, where it is in the image that we're working from. And so more lines, more proximity, create attention to detail, and this openness creates more light over and through here. And then if I felt like that right above the ear, this was maybe still too dark, I might tap that down because there's so much light hitting across this area. I can tap it down even further. You want lots of contrast with the thickness, thinness, and the value of your line. Even though we're not using value in our drawing, we are using value of line weight. So darker and thicker will come forward. Thinner and lighter will do what? It will go back into the background. Even in a shallow space like this head, we can start to get that emerging. It's amazing what that line weight will do for us. This kind of pulls all the way over through here. Like so. So we've got some divots in through here coming in. Push that, pull that through there. Bring the back of that ear out a little bit. And this wants to come up and over. And we'll get another dark line or two inside here, just to get that ear flap to turn. So I didn't value that out with tone. I just put thicker lines against one another to make it feel like there's value. There are little tricks in that way of thinking about the drawing. These little divots come through nicely. And I think I'll end most of that head now. I think I've got the head pretty much locked in where I want. Right through here, this hair turns, a little darker divot, a little tick to make that neck start to fill in. So see how I didn't continue to go down the line here in outline. I actually went into the figure to get that dimensionality, which I think is important. We want that dimensionality to come through. I'm going to put some arbitrary sort of cross-hatched contour lines just to make this feel rounded. They're not necessarily, I'm responding to the value of what I'm looking at in terms of the image, but I'm drawing these kind of 3 tick mark contour lines just to give it a little bit of turn. It's like a little texture, if you will. They're not necessarily on the model, on the drawing, but it's something I'm bringing in my mind. So I'm bringing the long line here, and I'm bringing in these lines. Sometimes they're 3, sometimes they're 2, sometimes they're more, just to give a little bit of rhythm. If I do it too much, too often, it starts to get too stylized, and it takes away from the natural, I think, feeling of the model. So I have to be careful there. Although I do like a lot of stylized contour lining, it's not necessarily what this project is about. And so you have to be careful there that style doesn't necessarily overtake what you want to talk about or to demonstrate or to do in your work. So I've kind of got this neck in through here, and now I'm going to bring it around and come back down and up over, and I'm going to tackle the rest of the face and the head. I think a lot of students of mine and other, maybe if you're younger at drawing, you leave the head and the face to the last. I say tackle it first, because in most drawings, it is the focal point, right? And if you get that locked in, then you're ready to roll. Everything is kind of easier after that, but there's another really more important reason, is that it is your focal point, and it sets the tone for everything else. So I'm going to bring that down. I made a faster line there, just to vary that. Break that up. You see more light coming in through. Then we get down to the clavicle and the sternum's coming together. This nice little beautiful curve you get that area. Outline of the neck coming down. It curves in just a little here. Darken that. And then it'll move through here. And so now we're talking about the cylinder of the neck, the tube, right? the ellipse, this turn. So make that in through here. And on up. And this gets a little darker through here. A little darker. And those go on up his lapel, or his shoulder blade area. Now I'm going to keep coming around. Less is more. This is generally kind of a medium tone value light, so medium thick line to lighter line, but in the light a little bit, and we come across. I start to read that, and I start to see the shadow read through here. Okay. Working in the neck, as shadow comes down. It's kind of a broken shadow line. It's a form shadow, so it's going to be a little softer. So I'm going to break that up a little bit, medium lines to get that Adam's apple coming through. So we have that. And then this underneath part of our shadow here, where it opens up, it's a little darker right in through that turn. And we come in and over. Right, so we're looking good there, I think. So I can come back and, since I've already got the chin set in, I'm going to go ahead and grab this shoulder underneath it. It tends to come together about right here, it looks like. And so now I'm going to come down. Now I know that's going to be a darker line. I want to obliterate that with dark line yet. I tend to get to my dark lines over time in these kinds of really controlled, meticulous, quick sketch and contour. And so I get to it over time, meaning I layer it, and I can come down the shoulder area here, taper that through, and then work on getting it in through here and over. And I'm going to kind of just draw through that bone a little bit. I can erase it later if I want. Just pick up where that lapel or that armor plate is, I suppose. I'm not sure what to call that. Just call it armor plate. And pick that up, simplify this down a little bit, and start to head down this way. And then kind of end right in through there a little bit. And cut. And back in 5, 4, 3, 2. So I ended up down in through here a little bit, and I think I'll lay off and then come back up to the head. Let's finish out this head part. I'm already thinking about where I'm going to do my focal point rendering at the very end of this drawing, and it might be in the head in cast shadow area. I'm already kind of feeling it, but I'm not. The tendency is you're itching to do a little value, right? It's a natural way to think about your drawing, because you want to get to that, but we want to hold off. Beautiful way to describe the world and just line. Let it be line, but it takes a little discipline, because you naturally want to get to that value. It's so cool looking, right? To full value. And so this cloth kind of comes out of its head. You don't want the cloth to feel like it's right connected to the head, so we got to be careful in the head here and fade off with some of that shadow. And then I'm going to pick up this line here. I might even do the palm method, where the cloth is, and start to make it a softer, thicker line and through here, and then come on down with it a little bit, because we want to make it feel like it's away from the head a little bit and through there, so we can bring this down. This might be just slightly another piece of hair. I see right in, possibly see right in through there and over. So again, we're always finding the tendency to have an outline drawing. We want variety and variation as I'm processing and talking through this drawing. Variety and variation are our friends. That gives us that beautiful sense of light that we're always trying to get in dimension and structure as well. And those are just a few of the things as we're working, because later on we also want to get to understand rhythm, and that happened a lot through our quick sketch already. Okay, so we're coming down, turns here of head to forehead. We'll dip it into the nose, the eye socket in through here, and we'll start to come around. Got that nice form shadow. Catching this hair a little bit, a little light sensitive line, and then we'll come and start to find through here. Okay, start to work the nose down. And I generally tend to work my line and then taper over it. I think everybody has a little bit different approach, and I embrace whatever works for everyone. It starts to work for you. And of course, if you're working in ink pen, it's even different. And the reason why is because ink is less variable to some degree. It is a little bit, but to some degree it isn't. So I'm going to bring down this lip tip here, then I'm going to go back in and start the three-dimensionality. I don't like to stay on the edge too long. I like to get into the figure, the dimensionality of it, so that we don't have any qualms about what we're drawing dimensionally. If you just outline, it's 2D. It's okay, but we don't want to stay there too long. This brow knuckle is rounded in through here, so it's got a little mark in through here. Side plane of the head starts about right in through there. I'm going to put a few little contouring strokes in through there. So sometimes, again, like I said, I put some contouring arbitrary marks, these little cross-hatched tick marks on there. And that shows the dimensionality of the form that I want to get through my drawing. And it's not always on the figure. Matter of fact, it's not, or the still life object. But it tells me that I'm moving your eye and I'm thinking about dimension. So drawing is connecting that which you see to that which you know, especially in an academic traditional sense, which most of these instructional videos will be to the most part. To get those that are new at drawing and fresh at drawing that want to practice and supplement their educations, or if you're on your own, doing it on your own time, you can use these to help you out. That's my goal, is to help you get to a better place than you were before. You'll make yourself great if you want to. Most artist professors like myself, I tell my students, I think I can get you to a better place if you'll go through the exercises and you'll work hard and you bring the talent. But then to make yourself great, to teach yourself the idiosyncrasies of your vision, that's hard to do. I think most professors would say that that's a difficult part, and you've got to bring that to the table as a student. And when students do that, good Lord, there's excitement of new visions. It's nothing greater than to see students realize some potential that they never had before. It's pretty amazing stuff. All right, so we're coming into some complexity here. I'm kind of getting around the eye. I'm going to get this cast shadow on the nose made from the eyeball. This comes around and downward and through here. So again, the trick is to stay in contour. Always stay in contour. Don't get out of the contour line. I see this is a little bit darker and through here. So it's got that kind of turned down, classic sort of Romanesque for the time nose. So it's arched just a little bit, tip underneath and through. So I'm going to bring this curve over. There's an overcurve and an undercurve to get us back. It's not very dark. And then we're going to catch this plane here for our nose. And catch the back of the nostril a little bit as it comes through. Catch that darker part of the nose coming underneath. And I'm not crazy about that nose, that part of it. So I'm going to take it out here. Take my nude eraser, get most of it out, like so, and then I'm going to take my white eraser and come back in. So every now and then you'll catch me erase. Not a whole lot. Not that I don't make mistakes, but generally I can draw through them pretty quickly. So I catch that over and come back through. And catch this underneath part and come on down. So this nostril's right in through here. And so it has this dark area where we get part of the nostril opening, and we get a cast shadow under it. So I've got to make a pretty thick line to show that, and then put them together. And that's about as much dark as I can get it, and thickness. I don't want too thick to be toned, and then this thin line to come back through there. So let's start to work through, and we're coming over. You catch this cheek coming in, protruding in and out through here, and it's got a little back on it, right through there. Okay, so we'll come down this eye. So I've got cast shadow. This darker part through here is a cast shadow, a little bit darker, harder edged coming through here. Okay, and coming up and through. And we can see the eyeball tend to emerge right in through here. I'll give a little flick of it. This whole eyeball does this. But we're only seeing a little bit because it's got eyelash lid wrapped around it through here. And I'll give a little bit of tonality of line right in through there, so we start to see that cut through. And then I'm going to come over and give this little eyelid coming down like so. To give it that a little bit more of an eye look to it, right in through there. Darker and curved. We want to feel this underneath part of the chin, the jaw, cheekbone. I'll get it right in a moment. Cheekbone in through here, and then come down. So here's where I put a few of those contouring line marks through here, and over to get that softness. And there's just a few lines to cut underneath the chin, right in through there. So it's a pretty complex area of form and detail. And I'll put a little bit of mark to show that light coming through there. Center nose there. And so we've got this cheekbone in through here. Just a little bit darker, not a whole lot, a little bit darker right in through there. And then running through here, the nose curves up just a little bit, this area. Just a light line to get that to come through. The nostril. And then it's how everything is on an angle. It's moved back in space. This way, that's important to see that. We start to work with this top lip. Comes almost a puckered sensation, very classical look to this kind of cheap plastic cast that we have. And then the lip up and then quickly cascades downward, almost like a little triangle through here. And then it overlaps right here and comes downward to get this circular bulge of the mouth cavity in through this direction, and then over and down. And we see a little bit of bone structure about right in through here. We get in through there. So we're starting to get that to start to come alive visually into a three-dimensional form, human-like plaster cast form in through here. And we'll come underneath with a little bit of line to give that some dimension. So now let's come down and get this bottom lip in through here. So we have this coming through. And I'm going to pull out a little bit with my eraser right in through here. Take that out. And you can see this bottom lip want to come out a little bit as it folds underneath. And it comes right over and through here, and it wants to crash down and in through that direction, really dark, thick line to give that kind of puckered look. And then we can bring this really in, this thicker line in. Here, another thicker line next to it to give it the fullness of that kind of arrogance, I suppose, of the chin region of Caesar. And then bring this through and around. So we're getting close there to a real significant part of our drawing, acing the first part of our drawing here. And then we'll start to move this gravity of the chin as it folds this downward. Right through there. So this comes underneath. I'll make this darker and thicker. That's really where a lot of light cannot escape from. Right under here, inside here. And so we'll get some of this form shadow right in through here. This shadow underneath the form shadow. So it's soft in through here. It ends soft, but it ends on the left side with the hard edge because that's the end of the figure. So we'll take a medium weighted line, and I'm pushing down with lighter pressure going over that line to describe it. Remember your pressure points. I need to talk more about that, how important they are in the experience of contour line drawing. Pushing down really constitutes a lot of weight. Sometimes it constitutes a very incised line, too. And a softer line constitutes a softer transition. I think that's what digital applications are still trying to get a grips on, is some of that real sensitivity that your hand can get. Although I like practicing digitally too, soften through there. So I think we're getting close to what we're wanting from this. Little detail hair emerging through here. And so you could probably pick apart this hair even further if you want to. I could do a few more details. Right in through here. So anything that's darker is a darker line, means that we're communicating that it's on the left side of the head, turning away from the light, which is the top right. And so these are lighter lines, lighter, and then there's a new form right here, means that it gets a little bit of a thicker line and then fades off as well to that. So that's important to see that distinction as you're learning how to craft the drawing, the idea of contour. And this is a form hubs over a little bit here and through here. It's got a little bit of a divot that comes through. A little extra dimension up in there. I think that's enough detail. You know, also it's time to show you to bring in the eraser shield. I should have brought that in earlier, but this thing is great. If you want to do tiny little erasing, put your eraser inside it, and you can knock out some easy lines and then mask out everything you don't need. So I'll be using it, I'm sure, here shortly. Too as well. All right, so we've kind of got the parameters for everything as we're moving forward in our composition. The head starts to really emerge, and I think I'm going to go back and pull out this right side of the composition where the that cloth is, and then pull this over a little bit, take on the antler, and kind of move maybe slightly right to left too as well, but also foreground, middle ground, and background. So maybe I should talk more and think through it, more of that way too as well. We want to be careful in our drawings not to make everything the same. And I think I've talked about that quite a bit, but especially foreground, middle ground, and background. Backgrounds will tend to fade out more. They will tend to be a little bit lighter and more muted and less detail. So you don't have to draw everything equally and equal weighted. I think that's important to keep in mind, and I'll demonstrate that more as we go through, working on Caesar's jaw here, adding a little bit of more refinement to this little area. Coming through, this kind of sweeps down. I want to pull your eye through here a little bit more further in through that area. And I can kind of come down in through here a little bit more. All right, so we'll start to work on the back of this neck, pull down a little bit, detail this little fold coming through, and start to hit the top of this shoulder region, which all this is turning. Right, it's turning in space, and he's moving over, and we start to hit this shoulder lapel, this extra information through here. And this is probably, I gotta be careful, this is pretty, looks like it's pretty long in my quick sketch. So your quick sketch needs to be tamed. If it's inaccurate, tame it. Don't draw necessarily always to it. I think be careful with that. So I feel like the major turn is starting to happen now in through here, not out here. So that's something that you want to be careful with and be mindful of as you want to tame your quick sketch. If it's inaccurate, if it's accurate, you're right on. That's great. But most of the time, you'll have to do some adjusting to make it work for you. And that's natural and normal, and you shouldn't feel, you know, when you're drawing like you've missed something, or you're missing something, or you're not getting an adequate understanding. Is you're always in a state of constant correction. I think that's kind of understood, but I want to make that pretty clear. All right, so we'll go through here. This overlaps, and so right in through here, that the deepest part of the overlap, right here my pencil is, see that? And you can see that you need to really push that dark. It's got almost like a dark bead, a little dot, where you're really hitting it hard, fading it off a little bit. It's really that point where it fades so far underneath that it disappears. The dark is trapped, and it's deep. And that's an important idea to continue to evolve to, is to, when that light gets trapped, it's pretty dark at its deepest where objects touch or they overlap, they get these darker, thicker lines, that richness of thickness. And that's something that's just got to be explored and experienced through drawing. You can be shown, and I'm going to show you a lot, but you need to just draw and experience that too as well. In through here, so this turns underneath and through here. So see how far I was a little further out. So I brought it just in a little bit. It still might be a little wide, but I can accept where it's at now. I think I'm okay with it. Just turning in through here. So taping my line a little bit darker in through here, and it wants to start to make that jump inward underneath here. So moving through and over. So I'm working in that underneath line. See how I'm moving it over a little bit? And I'm shooting for down here, which lines up in through here. There's my alignment right in through here. So sometimes I'll come over where I'm shooting for, and I'll make an area where I know I want that to end, like right in through here. You'll see that through. In that way I know where I can shoot from. I kind of have a starting and ending point too as well. It's like having 2 points to a line, and I kind of know where I'm going to end up. Coming in, this fades a little bit, and it comes underneath, gets a little bit darker. Don't be afraid to taper those lines, rework those lines through to get that variation that you want and that beauty that you're going to get neat. So this whole breastplate, right now I'm forgetting about the detail and I'm worried about the structure. See how it splits in two from the collar in this area? So I'm thinking about now here downward and separating that into two distinct forms by this pectoral separation, and then working those, getting the shadow structure, and then later on I can go in and kind of pick apart some of that detail. I'll always subordinate that detail to there. This is less important than this. This is the most important part of my drawing, and that's why I tackled it first. And so that's kind of my thinking on that. Let me go back now and pick up a little bit of this cloth coming back in the back areas, in the top corner areas of our drawing here. And I'm going to pick this up through here, and I'm going to make it, it's thick. You think it's really thick and dark. I don't want it to be as thick and dark as my thickest, darkest areas here, and maybe this could be a little darker under here. And the reason why, there's such a contrast of light. Hopefully my head's not too far in the way. Sorry for some of those shots of my bald head. You don't want to see that. Sometimes I can't because I've got to get in there. But I don't want this line to be as dark, as thick as this contrast. Why? There's less contrast back here. It's all dark, it's in shadow, so it's muted. So how do I interpret that through line? Well, okay. Let me come through here and start to interpret that. And it's thicker line, yeah, but it's not as dark. And so what does that mean? That means that I'm not pressing down as hard on my line, even though I've got a thick point to it. And I don't keep, you know what's funny? I don't keep my pencil tip super, super sharp. I keep it sharp enough, but if I can show you in the camera, but it's not like crazy sharp. And I twist my pencil around sometimes, and I'll find where it's the sharpest when I want to use that. And when I want something softer, I find the chiseled part and use that, and I can get this to vary. So I don't use like a super, super tip. That's something to think about. Up.
The $7 meal deal with $2 Blizzard upgrade. DQ, happy tastes good.
So let's get started. So I'm working to my bald head. You don't want to see that. Sometimes I can't because I've got to get in there. But I